Light and shadow, brushing up. Eyes help us to see things around us. We cannot see things. In the dark, light is an important source for all living things. It is an abiotic component in the environment. Lesson overview: light and its sources, properties of light, types of objects based on the emission of light, or nature of objects with light, shadows and their properties, natural shadows, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, natural shadows, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Think what happens when suddenly the light goes off when you are studying in your study room. Can you see anything in the room? Why? No, we cannot see anything in the room because besides our eyes, light is also important to see things around us. It is a form of energy. We get light from sources like torches, bulbs, tube lights, or the sun. Sources of light. The objects which give out light are known as the sources of light. Sources of light can be natural or artificial. Natural sources of light objects that give out the light of their own are called natural sources of light. Natural sources of light include the sun, stars, lightning, etc. The sun is the main source of light energy. There are some animals and plants that can create their own light, such as a glowworms, fireflies, jellyfish, starfish, squid, and mushrooms, etc. Man-made sources of light, objects that are made by us and produce light artificially, are called man-made artificial sources of light. We use these sources of light when there is no natural source of light. Man-made sources of light include torchlights, electric bulbs, earthen lamps, candles, flashlights, table lamps, LED lights, halogen lamps, fire torches, etc. Artificial sources of light require an energy source such as electricity or batteries to emit light. Things around us are grouped into two different types based on two properties. They are objects on emission of light and the nature of objects with light. Emission of light. Based on the emission of light, objects are classified into two categories. They are emission means దాని నుంచి రావడం అనమాట. luminous and నాన్ luminous ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్. luminous ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ which emit light. Emit means రావడం. Emit light and heat are called luminous objects. Natural and artificial sources of light are examples of luminous objects. Non-luminous objects which do not emit their own light are called non-luminous objects. These objects reflect the light emitted by luminous objects. For example, tables, chairs, books, wood, iron rods, steel, plastic, etc. How do we see things when light falls on the surface of our objects? A part of it bounces back and falls on our eyes. This is called the reflection of light. This property of light helps us to see. Most of the objects that we see reflect light. A black surface does not reflect light. The objects appear black because they absorb all the light. Properties of light. Light travels from one place to another. When we switch on the light in a dark room at once, the light emitted by electric bulb travels in every direction and brightens the room unless it is restricted by some barrier. Similarly, the light from the sun spreads in all directions and reaches the moon and all other planets in the universe. Light travels in a straight line. The study of light is known as haptics. Light travels in a straight line. When we switch on a torchlight in a dark room, the beam of light will be straight. This shows that light travels in a straight line. The propagation of light in a straight line is known as a rectilinear propagation of light. Let's do it. Fix a candle on a table and light it. Try to look at the light through a plastic tube. Keep the tube straight with one end pointed towards the candle flame. Look from the other end. Can you see the candle flame? Yes, we can see. In the second case, now bend the tube like this. In the first case, either straight ga unnappudu, then we can see the light because the light travels in a straight line. If when we bend, so we can't see the flame of a candle. So in the second case, now bend the tube. Can you see the candle flame now? In the above activity, we cannot see the flame when the tube is bent because light can only travel in a straight lines. It cannot travel in the bent tube to reach our eye. Light is made up of seven colors. We must have seen a rainbow in the sky. Sometimes it is usually seen after it rains. When sunlight passes through the raindrops, it gets separated into seven colors: violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. So we can say that the white light that we get is made up of seven colors. Refraction of the light: when we light pass from the one medium to another, it bends at the surface of the two media. This is known as a refraction of light. A refraction of light, it is due to this property that a pencil kept in a glass of water appears to be bent. Did you know light travels at a very fast speed of 3 lakh kilometers per second? That means 3 into 24 of 8. It can also travel through space beyond the Earth's atmosphere. This is how light uh, from the sun and the stars can reach the Earth. The distance between the sun Earth and the Earth is about 150 million kilometers, and light takes about 8.3 minutes to reach the surface of the Earth. Nature of the objects with light. Based on the nature of the objects with light, objects can be further classified into three types. There are transparent, translucent, and opaque objects. Transparent objects that allow the light to pass through them are called transparent objects or materials. These objects or materials allow us to see directly, clearly through them. They include an air, water, transparent glass, transparent cover, etc. Translucent objects or materials that allow some amount of light to pass through them are called translucent objects. They include butter paper and frosted glass. We cannot see through translucent objects clearly. They form faint shadows. They include butter paper and frosted glass. Opaque objects that do not allow the light to pass through them are called opaque objects. We cannot see through an opaque object. Wood, brick, stones, and metals, etc. are opaque objects. They form shadows. Shadows. All of us have seen our shadows while walking in the sun. The formation of a shadow is a natural phenomena. A shadow is formed when an opaque object blocks the path of the light. The area of darkness formed behind an opaque object is called the shadow. Conditions for the formation of shadows: a source of light, an opaque object, and a surface or an opaque screen behind the opaque object. In the absence of any one of these, we cannot see a shadow. Characteristics of a shadow: a shadow always forms on the opposite side of the source of a light. A shadow is always black in color, irrespective of the color of the object that blacking the rays of light. The shape of the shadow depends on the position of the object between the source of light and the screen. The size of the shadow decreases if the opaque object is moved closer to the screen and away from the source. The size of the shadow increases in the opaque object is moved away from the screen and close to the source of light. The size of the shadow depends upon the distance between the source of light, the position of the light source, and the size of the opaque object. A shadow contains two regions, umbra and penumbra. The darkest region in the center of the shadow is called umbra, and the gray region of the shadow is called penumbra. Penumbra is seen away from the umbra. Eclipse. As we studied about the rotation and revolution of the earth, we know that the earth revolves around the sun in an orbit. Similarly, the moon revolves around the earth in an orbit. At some point, the earth, the sun, and the moon from a straight line form a straight line. When this happens, the rays of the light from the sun are blocked by the earth or the moon cast a shadow. An eclipse is a shadow cast by the moon or the earth when the sun or the moon has an eclipse. The bright surface of it turns black. Lunar eclipse. In a lunar eclipse, the sun, the earth, the moon form a straight line with the earth between the sun and the moon. Here, the earth blacks the sunlight, casts a shadow on the moon. A lunar eclipse always occurs on a full moon night. There are two types of lunar eclipses, a total lunar eclipse and a partial lunar eclipse. In a total lunar eclipse, the Earth's shadow covers the moon completely. When it occurs, the moon does not look bright but appears reddish. In a particular lunar eclipse, the Earth's shadow covers the moon partially. A lunar eclipse can occur a maximum of 3 times in a year. Some lunar eclipses can last up to 2 hours. A lunar eclipse lasts as long as the moon is the shadow of the earth. The eclipse may last as short a few minutes or as long as a few hours. Once the moon moves out of the earth's shadow, it shines brightly once again. A lunar eclipse can be viewed with the naked eye. Solar eclipse. In a solar eclipse, the sun, the moon, and the earth are in the straight line with the moon in between the sun and the earth. Here, the moon blacks the sunlight, cast a shadow on the earth. A solar eclipse always occurs on a new moon day. Did you know once a month the moon comes directly between the earth and the sun? On such a day, the dark side of the moon is towards us, and the moon is not visible in the sky. This phase of a moon is known as the new moon. During the solar eclipse, the shadow of the moon falls on a portion of the earth, and and the people are in this part of the earth cannot see the sun at all. Total about once